All right, everybody, there we go. So the first thing I'm gonna ask everybody to do is if you can, if you have a Facebook page, if you can go to the event page for this meeting and you can just share the Facebook, share this event on Facebook with your network. So we are now live. Okay. So if everybody that's online, if you can share, I'm gonna share it too. I'd appreciate that. Okay. I think I'm gonna share it. Did anybody get the live notification? Did anybody get the
I
live
didn't.
notification?
I can't
I didn't
tell.
get it. I didn't get the notification, but it says that
No,
we're
I
live
didn't
on
get it.
Facebook.
Okay, I got it. Now I'm there. I found it. Okay, good deal. All right, yeah, we here, everybody. I'll say good. So good afternoon, everybody. Or what actually is evening.
Evening.
So I'm going to share it on my page. And so if you have it, you haven't got the notification, you can go to Samuel Radford page. It's also on the We the Parent show page. And it's also on the We the Parent event page. So we're asking parents to do this if you can, if you're listening to us right now, if you could just take a minute and you can share this with your friends in your network so we can get as many parents engaged as possible. We'd appreciate that. Um, so for those who are just tuning in and for those who are already here, my name is Sam Radford. I'm one of the co-chairs for the We the Parent organization. I'm really honored to have some other co-chairs with me on. So I'm gonna start off by letting them introduce themselves, say a little bit about themselves, and then we'll jump right into our agenda for the day. So I'll start over here with the top at Nia.
Hi, my name is Nia Badger. I am the mother of 3 small children, all in the Buffalo Public Schools. They are in grade 6, 3rd, and 2nd. And of course, I'm a part of We the Parents because I'm really interested in making sure that our children receive a quality education and that we can help other parents advocate for their children to have a quality education as well. So welcome. We hope you stay and we hope you get involved.
All right, thank you. Queen Halima.
Yes, good evening, everybody. My name is Vanetta Rhodes, or you call me Queen Halima. I am a parent. My son attends Buffalo Academy of Science Charter. He is 13 years old, and I'm also an advocate for early childhood education, childcare, but I'm just an advocate for education, period. So thank you very much.
All right, Tawana.
Hi, my name is Tawana Johnson. I am the parent of a Buffalo public student and a charter school student. I am a part of We the Parents because I feel like the parents and the students have a voice and should be treated fairly.
Right, and finally, Duncan. Duncan, your mute is on.
Thank you. Hey, I'm Duncan Kirkwood. I'm happy to be a part of We the Parents and help empower other parents with information. I have 3 children. They are 10, 11, and 12. And so my 2 daughters go to Buffalo Academy of Science Charter. So I'm thinking I'm listening to Queen Alima. My kids go to charter school for applied technology. And so I'm really excited to have this discussion and to really get parents involved because we as parents are like the main stakeholders in the education system. And when we use our voice, we can see real changes.
Yes, and so thank you. So that's just some of our executive committee. There are more that'll be joining us later, but we're gonna get started. I see 3 of our guests are here. 4 of our guests are here already. So let me just say, first of all, for those who have not been part of a We the Parents meeting, We the Parents is a group that has formed to make sure that we as parents can support each other in an effort to ensure that all of our children get a quality education. We, the parents, have members who are in public school, private school, charter school, Catholic school, and homeschool. So our advocacy is for all children. So we don't zero in on in a particular group. We try to make sure we have an intergenerational conversation. So we have parents who have been leaders for over 50 years and some who are brand new to being parents. But what we want to do is make sure that the institutional knowledge that has been learned by parents who have been involved in the system a long time is transferred to the next generation, and we're able to build on that foundation to ensure that all the children in West New York get a quality education. So what we want to do with this platform really is make sure that the parent voice is heard. And so we're in the process of right now, and I won't go into all the detail, but I will make sure those people are listening have enough information to know what we're doing. We're in the process of organizing to advocate specifically on behalf of our children in some specific areas. So what we're doing right now is doing information gathering. So what we want to do is create a platform where parents can talk about two things. The first thing that we're going to talk about tonight, and this is new to our agenda because of the superintendent's announcements last week that children will go back to school on February 1st. So the first thing we want to talk about is, as parents, do we believe Buffalo Public School parents, now this is Buffalo Public Schools specifically, and there's some charter schools, because there are some charter schools whose transportation is connected to Buffalo Public Schools, and so they only open when Buffalo Public Schools open. So, but this really is centered around this decision by the superintendent to say that Buffalo Public Schools will not open till February 1st. And so what we wanted to do is we're going to advocate either way. But what we wanted to do is find out what parents felt about that. Do parents think is Buffalo Public School parents should have a choice on whether their kids go to school before February 1st, or is February 1st fine? So we've done our own initial research and got some information. We put a question out there. Some of you may have seen the question that we had online, where we asked parents, should Buffalo Public School have the choice just like the parents all across West New York? The only other school district in West New York where the parents don't have a choice is West Seneca. So what we want to do is get parent input on that first. And then the second thing we want to do is we want to find out what parents' experience is with remote learning. So the superintendent did a presentation at the last school board meeting where he talked about all the great things that were going on with remote learning. What we want to do is we want to hear directly from parents. We want to hear directly from students. And let me do this. Let me give you a short example of the kinds of information gathering that we're doing to hear from students. So I'm going to share my screen. This is just a real quick example of an interview that we're doing with students to find out what their experience has been. And we're going to ask people to do that and to share it so that we can get together some qualitative data on what students and parents' experience is. So can everybody see that screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
All right, so here's an example.
We can't hear it.
You can't hear that?
No.
Oh, okay. So I don't know how to solve that problem.
Start the video over. Try to close out of it and open it again.
Close out of it.
And then open it again and see if it works.
Okay. Thank you. I thought I had solved that problem, but obviously I didn't. Okay. So so start the video from where it's at and then share the screen.
Oh yeah. See if you can hear it first, and
Yeah,
then
I can hear. I heard it just now.
Okay. Well, let's try it again. Let's see.
All right, we'll try it one more time. And this is just a student sharing what his experience with online instruction is. And so what we wanted to do is have parents do the same thing and students do the same thing. Just keep it very simple. Just put on a short video, an example of what your experience is. Okay, so I'm gonna try it again. Okay, share screen first. All right. Can y'all see it?
You can see
Y'all
it.
see, y'all see the picture of the student?
Yes.
Okay. So now let's see, can y'all, if y'all can hear. Do y'all hear it now?
I don't.
No, we don't hear it.
No.
All right, so we're gonna move on. I will, while the first person speaking, I'll try to figure out why y'all cannot hear that. And so what we want to do is have our first, and did I talked to the second issue is with the issue with the quality of remote instruction. So we have a couple parents that will speak about Bethany and who else is on here that will speak about parents having the right to send their children to school, and then we'll have Jenny and Jessica who will be talking about their experience, parents' experience. Yeah,
That's me. Could you just give us an overview on what the student said? I'm really curious on what the kids are saying.
yeah, you know what, and that's a good idea. We had a really good forum this week with the Education Trust, where basically we heard students share a whole range of things, from they were struggling with remote instruction to they were doing better with the remote instruction. Some students were saying that they had too much work, and some students who had too much free time. But everybody said that they were stressed on some level. The mental health issue was very, very serious. Every student has some type of not a positive association with the fact that they were not being able to socialize with their peers, and it was taking a toll on them. So them not going back to school for the rest of the year clearly is something that nobody was excited about and nobody wanted. So this particular student that was on here would have shared that, said that, there are good parts and there are bad parts of it, but he wanted to get back to school as soon as possible. Okay.
As do most of the kids.
Say again.
Thank you. I said, as do most of the kids.
Right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna jump right in, and we'll start with you, Bethany, and let you share what your thoughts are on should Buffalo Public School parents have the choice of sending their children back to school before February 1st.
Okay. Well, for me.
Well, introduce yourself. Tell us where your children go to school, and give us a.
Okay. All right. Hi, I'm Bethany. I'm the mother of 4 children. I have 2 that graduated from Charter School for Applied Technology. I have 1 that graduated Riverside High School, and I have a current student in Riverside High School. Oh, don't mind her. I see this from many different angles. I have brown children. So like for me, I see the issues of inequality, the equity issues that some people I feel like just aren't really seeing or understanding, taking the time to understand. I am also a New York State credentialed family advocate. I work for a local mental health agency, a children's mental health agency, and it's bad. Like it's all bad, and I, in the beginning, wanted my child back in school, and for me, that's my personal decision. I want my child back in the building. She's a senior in high school. I am now going to have to send her to college, missing 1.5 years of her education. We're not talking a couple months, a couple weeks, 1.5 years of her education. No SATs, I don't know that she's actually doing well because we don't have any state exams. They haven't had region. How do I know that she's actually on grade level? I don't. But more importantly, I believe in the freedom for every parent to have a voice. We all deserve a seat at the table. If my child's name or anything that has to do with my child is being discussed, I want to be sitting at that table when you discuss her. And I want, whether you agree with me, whether you're going to make a change or not, it's the school board's job to validate my concerns as a parent. And that's, for me, that's what it boils down to, is that there's just a lack of I say respect. It's just a lack of respect. I've emailed, no response, just a lack of respect for parents in our district.
So independent of whether you send your children back to school or not, you feel like at this point, the parent voice has not been a voice that has been factored in the decision-making at all?
No, I've been actually banned from the Buffalo Parent Teachers Organization Facebook page. You know, I have clients that are also Buffalo students. I've been banned from there. I've emailed multiple board members, didn't even get a thank you for your email. We'll look into it. I got nothing, you know, and
Gotcha.
that's scary to me because I advocate for my child, but there's a lot of parents that don't know how to do that. So if I'm getting ignored, how are all these other people getting treated? You know what I'm saying?
Thank you so much for sharing. That's really what we want to do, is we want to make sure we have a platform where parents can be heard, and that kind of statement where, you know, especially if you're being blocked from speaking in other platforms, there's a place where your voice can be heard, and then we can come up with a collective strategy on how to effectively advocate.
Thank you.
All right. Tarja, did I pronounce your name properly? Am I pronouncing your name properly? AL48872.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah, that's you.
It's Amy. I'm sorry.
Amy, I'm
It's my
sorry.
work. Yeah, that's my work.
Oh, okay,
my work
gotcha.
queue. So I'm actually not in the Buffalo school system. I'm here
Okay.
because you invited Taria.
Yeah, Taria, who is, oh, okay,
Yes,
gotcha.
and she's going to be late, so she won't be able to join until 6:30. So we are
Okay.
the ones who are organizing the rally for this Sunday. So we don't have a similar situation as you. We're in Clarence. Our superintendent, however, did not open yesterday, so we're very upset. So we don't know what Buffalo school parents or students are feeling. I can tell you what students are feeling. They have to be feeling worse than my kids. My kids have been in school 2 days a week. At least my boys have. My daughter didn't like going to school with face masks, and so she went remote. But none of it's really working. So I do feel awful for these kids who haven't been in school since March, because I can't even imagine. The mental health issue is going to be a crisis. It is going to be a pandemic, just like COVID-19. What I can tell you though is we are rallying on Sunday for you guys. All of the school districts are welcome. We won't stop until every kid gets some kind of school back in school in person. So I encourage you to come to our rally this Sunday at the Rath Building downtown. So we did one 2 weeks ago. We had about 60 families come, kids come. We made signs, which was huge because it was the first one that we organized. We had Carl Schwartz, who is the attorney that will be filing in Erie County on behalf of all school districts. He is suing Cuomo and local officials. He is debating whether or not to sue individual superintendents and the Board of Educations. So if there are parents that are interested, please contact me because I can forward you his name, his email, and his phone number. He's looking for more parents before he does file in Erie County. But I do encourage you to come to the rally on Sunday. We had every single news station cover our last rally. Tari is working really hard to get the press releases out. So we encourage everyone to come because we had, I think, 8 to 9 different districts represented. We didn't have one person from Buffalo though. We had a charter school representative did come. She came and talked to us at the end.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing, Amy. If you could stay on, Amy, because I think, you know, for our later on in our discussion, to be able to hear from a parent who has a child in school that's been going 2 days a week, you know, that may be just good for us to find out what the experience has been. And so we'll bring you back on after Taria come on a little bit later. All right. And so now, Taria was also the next person I was going to speak on that subject. So I'm going to jump right now. Do any of the executive committee members want to speak about whether parents, Buffalo parents, should have the right to send their children back to school before we get into the discussion about what the quality of remote instruction is?
I think they should have the right, but they should also have some guidance as to make them have an informed choice. They should definitely have the right, but they should have some guidance so they can make an informed choice.
Yeah, and I really meant to say option. You know what I'm saying? You know, obviously they have the right. The Board of Education has the ability to do that. I really meant to say option in that case, but thank you for that sharing. Anybody else want to share on that?
Can I actually say something? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead, of course.
Hi, I'm Jenny. How are you guys?
Yeah, we doing wonderful, Jenny. Jenny, I actually have you coming up next to speak on the after Jessica on this next issue. You want to comment on both issues?
Yes, please.
Yeah, go ahead, Jenny. Go ahead.
Okay, because I don't think that everybody realizes that it's a bigger issue than parents just having a choice. Even if the Buffalo Public Schools said, you know what, parents, yes, you have a choice. You can either send your kids or you guys could stay remote. Then it becomes a county issue. If these parents choose to keep their children home, the county will not pay for daycare. So when a parent chooses to keep their child at home, they're choosing essentially to work a different shift or to come up with a plan B. So it's bigger than parents just having a choice. You know, there's
Wow,
more
that's
that goes into it.
That's interesting information. So you're saying that if the Buffalo Public Schools open and a parent chooses to stay remote as opposed to send their children, the county won't pay for the daycare?
No, because I'm a parent, but I'm also a daycare provider.
Wow, that's
So
good information.
when there were a couple of schools, especially charter schools, when they were speaking about giving parents an option, we were actually told that if parents choose to keep their children home instead of sending them to school, if that was an option, then they cannot cover the daycare cost. That would be up to the parent.
That's really good information. So thank you for sharing that. And we definitely going to do a little bit of research on that and find out what's the other information to go with that. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
That sounds like that should be appealed, you know, that if you choose because of your health and safety of your child, that whatever is applicable now when it's in full remote should still be applicable.
Yeah, so we probably should get more information just so we know the full scope of what's going on there. Duncan, you wanted to say?
Yeah, I think parents should have a choice. We were talked about before we got on the call. There are some students who have been going to school nonstop since March. Right? There are some students who are receiving a high quality education in school right now, in different parts of the country, in different parts of the state, in different types of schooling. So, you know, for me, I understand the safety concerns. You know, in the military, I worked in hazmat and in the chemical battalion. So I understand the safety and transmission and all of that. But I want to be clear. In Buffalo, our kids have been virtual and remote essentially since March for Buffalo public school students and a lot of the charter school students. But there are some districts outside of Buffalo or private schools where students have been going to school nonstop, right? So maybe in March they were out for a month and a half, then they got it safe and they went back into school. Or this September, August, students went back to school. And there's a difference in the quality of instruction. I know we're gonna get on that next, that kids receive doing packet learning, right? Because like we had K-2 students doing packet learning, didn't even have devices. We've got, you know, students just laying in their bed, not really paying attention, not logged in. We got students who want to learn, but it's like a difficult. I mean, there is like some real challenges that are going to have ripple effects for a long time for our children. And so I think some parents should have the option to say, hey, I want my child to have in-person instruction like they do 20 minutes away in this district or 15 minutes in this direction at this district, right? Just because we're in a largely Black and Hispanic school district doesn't mean we should get like the worst quality of instruction and no options. That's my little 2 cents on that.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess what I want my thoughts on it is that, and I'm really trying to, you know, be deliberate with my words, is that I think what needs to be reconciled is the science that the superintendent is sharing. The superintendent is saying that it's not safe to send our children to school based on what the science is telling him. Then we have a county health commissioner whose job it is to know what the science says, who says it's safe for kids to go to school. We have a county executive who's responsible for the kids through the whole county, who says it's safe to go to school. We have a governor who's responsible for the students all across the state, who said it's safe to go to school.
Thankful for another day God has blessed in this season.
Brother Kamal, you need to mute, please. So what my concern is that in Buffalo, you actually have some kids who are going to school every day in Buffalo. You know, so some kids who live in the same house or live right next door to somebody, their children are going to school in Buffalo. They go to a charter school and they're going to school 2 and 3 days a week. I got a granddaughter that goes to school 2 days a week. So is it either safe for the kids in Buffalo to go to school or it's not safe? You know what I'm saying? So the science saying 2 different things I think needs to be reconciled. If the superintendent has valid science that says that it's a risk for our children to go to school, it should be a risk for all children, not just Buffalo children. So that question needs to be answered, and I think we need to ask all those groups, the governor, the county executive, the county health commissioner, and the superintendent, all to be in a room at the same time and give one set of data, one set of facts. Somebody needs to mute their phone if you don't. So that's kind of where I'm at on it right now. Right now, I just think that the information is not consistent. And I think parents at minimum deserve to have some consistent information. All right, so we're going to come back to that discussion, but part of that discussion was really related to the real discussion that we wanted to have today, because we ultimately want to make a decision about how we're going to advocate at the school board. But the other part of whether they open or not, because even if they open on February 1st, according to the superintendent, the reason why he's not opening is because the infection rate is high. So the question becomes is on February 1st, if the infection rate is the same or higher, are they going to actually open on February 1st? We don't know. So either way it go, what it comes down to is that remote instruction is what's happening now, and it's what's going to be happening for the foreseeable future. So what we also want to advocate on is the quality of remote instruction. So with that, I'm going to start off by bringing Jessica Bauer Walker, who has done some work in talking with parents. I'll let her introduce herself and say where she's from and talk about the work she's done to get information from parents in terms of their experience with remote instruction. Welcome, Jessica.
Hey, Brother Sam. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. Jessica Bauer Walker. I am a proud parent at International School 45 and, one of the largest and most diverse schools in the district and in the region. Also am a community health worker. So I work on a professional level, doing a lot of work around public health and public education and what families need to be healthy, safe, and supported. So we have a parent and student community health worker training program as well, and have been talking with a lot of parents and students about what their experience has been since March. And I think it's a lot of things that have been raised already, but we know that, the quality of remote instruction, as you had stated before, Sam, is pretty varied in terms of what people are getting. And I think it's improved since March, but as some of the other folks have raised, it's taken a toll on folks, and it's really not sustainable for parents or students. Those of us that are working parents, and I'm a single parent as well, supervising our kids to do this. I have middle schoolers. One is doing okay. One is really, really struggling. And so I think figuring out ways to make sure that we're really talking to parents and students about what their experience is. And, best case scenario, we have a small percentage of our kids in Buffalo Public Schools and even the region going back to any in-person instruction. And we know that for our special education kids, for our English language learner kids, for those that, are not in ideal home environments or have parents who have to work, this is not working. So, the littlest kids, we need to figure out how we prioritize in-person supports for our most vulnerable families. And then for the majority of us who will probably be in virtual learning for the foreseeable future, what does that look like? My work has been about making sure that we have a whole child approach to the way that we do schools and education. And with the rates of kind of mental health issues, we're just starting to see the data right now around, some of these health indicators. We know in Buffalo and across the country, things like rates of gun violence, that's a little bit easier to measure, are the highest they've ever been. That's not a positive indicator in terms of how folks are doing. Rates of anxiety and depression. People's access to basic needs like food. We know from talking to our colleagues that are working in food security that the amount of need that's out there is significant. And the way that the program is set up with Buffalo Public Schools is a small window of time during the workday where you can come pick up food. That's not working for most families, right? So just the multiple layers and levels of need that are there. I think we need to think about how do we assess what's happening right now and have a creative, flexible, adaptable approach to what learning looks like, both in person and remote, and really center the voices and experiences of parents and students.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Jessica. And Jenny Smith, you want to share what your experience with remote instruction has been?
Yes. As I stated before, I'm not only a parent, but I also am a daycare provider. I have 3 children of my own. I have a high schooler. I have a 5th grader with the IEP who is autistic, and I have a 3rd grader. But I also deal with children from Buffalo Public Schools and charter schools from kindergarten up to 10th grade. And from my experience, the hardest thing about the virtual learning is standards. I don't think that there's standards for these teachers. I don't think these parents are held to any standards. And to be honest, I think that high schoolers, there's not really many standards for them as well. And I say that to say this. In the beginning, when this stuff first started, we were told that the teachers will be on class with the children for their regular school day. I have children that start at 8:30 and is done at 11.
Yeah.
You know, I have children who are done at 12. I have some children who do the whole work day, but that's very slim. It's 2 kids out of what, 15? So there's really no standards on the school days, the length of time, the quality of education. These assignments, most of them are jokes. And then the teachers are saying, well, we don't want you to help them. And as not only a parent, but as a provider, I'm going to help them. If they're not understanding something and I interrupt and I let you guys know, listen, this child is not understanding what they're supposed to be doing. And you're like, oh, I didn't know. Yes, you did, because he's been telling you for the last 10 minutes that he doesn't understand. So the kids get a different reaction from these teachers versus us as parents and us as daycare providers. And the quality sucks. To be honest, I have about two teachers who really do their best and go up and beyond for these children. The rest of them, unfortunately, do not. They take a lot of breaks. They take a lot of off days. They have kindergarteners starting the school day at 2 o'clock. Anybody who has ever worked with the child in kindergarten knows that their school cannot start at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They will not learn anything. You know, they've been awake their entire day. They've been enjoying their day, and then you want to start at 2 o'clock. Who could possibly do that at 5 years old? And then when it comes to parents, you know, for me, I make it easy for my parents. I make sure that the kids have every assignment done before they leave here every single day. So my parents have it very, very easy, but I know that most daycare providers cannot do that. So after a parent has been at work all day, they have to come home, cook dinner, work on assignments. So children who normally go to bed at 8 is not going to bed until 10:30, 11 o'clock to make sure that they have these assignments in. You know, and then with children with IEPs, I know my son in particular, he has struggled. You know, they got him doing OT on the computer. OT is an in-person service. Speech is an in-person service. You know, so the things that they're having him do does not work. You know, as a parent, I make it work. You know, he has an 88 average. So I make it work for him. I take the time out, but not all parents have that time. But if they hold these teachers to some type of standard, remote learning can go a lot better. There's just no standard across the board. I was actually speaking to a high school teacher the other day regarding my son, and he informed me that for the first marking period, well, actually for the whole entire remote learning, instead of putting a failing grade, they're putting incomplete. So then they're giving children, so if they get it incomplete for the first marking period, they're giving children until the end of the second marking period to make up all the work for the first marking period. So in return, what they're doing is they're pushing our kids along. They're pushing our kids along when they're quite not ready. You know, this isn't March. It isn't March when everything was pretty much dropped in our laps. You know, we had experience from March. It didn't go well. Things were tweaked for September. But at a high school level, you have to hold the kids accountable. You have to hold the parents accountable. And you definitely have to make sure the teachers are held accountable for what they are and are not doing. And nobody's really holding anybody to any standard. But it starts with the teachers. You know, they're the start of the school day. And as parents, we need to make sure that we're getting our kids out to bed. We need to make sure that they're awake, they're eating breakfast, they're getting on the computer, and they're actually making an attempt. Not everybody is home to do that, but we all have to kind of stick together and really try our best and give it a shot, you know. But again, it first starts with the teachers and the Board of Education. There are no standards for these teachers.
Jenny, thank you so much for sharing, you know, because you really have an interesting perspective, because most parents do not see what a bunch of other schools are doing. So because you're in a daycare setting and you're seeing what 6 or 7 different schools are doing, you're able to make a comparison between that. Most parents just see what their kids are doing. So it's really interesting to hear you say that some kids are on school, you know, for a couple hours, and some kids are on all day. Some kids are totally engaged. Some kids are totally not engaged. So what you're essentially saying is not consistent across the board. When you say it's not a standard, it's not consistent across the board. So some kids are getting a great education or maybe a better education, and some kids are clearly falling further behind. It's kind of what I hear you saying.
Yes, and not only that, but a big issue, honestly, I can't even speak for parents, but this is just as a provider, because it is our job to make sure that they are on these computers. My biggest issue with the technology part is there's no lock on the computers. When you're sitting a child in front of a computer and not keeping them engaged, they're pulling up YouTube, they're pulling up Fortnite, Roblox. So there's no lock on the computer to keep it on the classroom setting, you know. And I was told that the teachers can see that and the teachers tell them to get off, but they don't.
Okay. Duncan, could you do me a favor? Is a parent, Jasmine Hardy, who wants to be added on. Could you just share the link with her if you don't mind?
Yep, I got it.
All right. So with that, thank you so much for sharing, Jenny. So we're gonna have a couple members from our executive committee who want to share. So Nia and Vanetta and Tawana, if y'all want to share what y'all experience with home instruction is. I mean, what remote learning is?
Well, I have 3 children in the Buffalo Public School. My 2 eldest are in the 6th and the 3rd grade. They go to the same school, and my youngest goes to a different school. Our experience has been actually pretty good. We're parents that make sure that they, and I say this with no judgment. I say this with no, for a parent who has to work or who is not home. I'm just simply stating my experience. So we make sure that our children are up, and sometimes I do allow them to eat breakfast in the morning because my youngest son has a really early start. So they may have their cereal or something while they're on. But I have found that there is a disparity in the times that they go, but I have actually had no complaints as far as teaching, other than one thing. I do agree with, I believe her name was Jenny, who said that sometimes she hears how the teachers may speak differently if they don't think parents are around. And
yes.
that is definitely, we're on our street, we're a big community. There's a lot of school age children on our street. And actually a few of them have been over at my husband's grandmother's home, who's just right across the street. And we have also had to, advocate for other children who are not our own, whose parents are working, whose parents, whose grandparents are, at home, who are having some connectivity issues. Like we've had all of those things happen with just the children on our street. And myself and my husband's aunt have had to advocate for those children separately, as if they are our own. But in that way, I've had a good experience, but I will say this, because I am home with them. So I'm able to hear in the beginning when there was terrible issues with connections and things like that, I was able to explain to the teacher, no, we're looking at it on both sides and we can't hear you, we're not connecting, and different things like that. My youngest daughter my daughter, only have one, goes to school the longest. She's in from 8 a.m. on the dot to about 3:30. My youngest son, who's in the second grade, is on from 8 a.m. on the dot to 11:30. And then his day is finished, besides their, art and extracurricular activities. My son, who's in the sixth grade, and he's in a different type of position because he takes AP classes. So he takes AP math, and generally they would have 2 math courses that he gets to skip because he's in AP math. So his day actually ends at about 1:30. So obviously it is the disparity in time between the children. I think that I have a unique perspective, once again, because I'm home with the children and I'm home with my children. And I actually am one that will advocate really early for them. So I'm not sure what would happen if I wasn't there.
Mia, can
And
I
that
ask
is
you a question?
sure.
Your oldest, the one that is in AP math, how old is he? What grade is he in again?
He's 11 and he's in the
Okay.
sixth grade. Yes. And so he starts later than the other two. The other two start at 8. He actually starts at 9, 8:40 or 9. He has asynchronous learning, which is he's allowed to do it on his own for the first 20 minutes. And then his actual school day with a actual teacher in front, starts at 9. And he's done after AP at 12:30. AP math.
Thank you for sharing, Nia.
Yes.
Tawana, you want to share? I'm sorry, you want to
Can I please add one more thing? I actually had a parent text me who's actually watching our live right now. And she was explaining how the grading, the system, which Jenny actually did touch on, is really huge. And right now, if a child is failing, the teachers are not allowed to fail them. They just have to get an incomplete, and they do have the opportunity to make it up. They're trying to make concessions for those children who may be having things going wrong in the home or connectivity issues or whatever's going on. But part of the larger problem that speaks to this is if you have a child who is actually in school every day, my kids, I can use my kids as an example. They're in school every day. So their grades are reflecting real time. Their grades are reflecting real, coursework. So if you took a test and got 2 wrong on a test and now you have a 92, the child, and you've been getting an accumulation of grades all along. So now you have an average. Let's just say you leave and your average is a 92. The child that may have not logged in at all, or the child that may have logged in one time, and maybe it was the first day of school or the second day of school, and because it was instruction that the teacher maybe gave full credit to and has 100, now has 100 average.
Mm-hmm.
Because anything that was missed or lost or has not been turned in gets an incomplete, not a failing grade. Whereas if my child who logs in every day fails, or or their grades are, and listen, I'm not saying that their grades should be 100. I do not believe in the no child left behind. If you have to be able to pass, you have to have the aptitude for each grade. So I'm not suggesting that we give our kids hundreds and send them out the door. But what it is going to cause a huge gap and a huge disparity between those who have really learned something this year and those who have not, because there's no way to tell because we're giving incompletes instead of grades. So we're not monitoring what their actual grade would be.
Yeah. And I heard a student talk on one of our on a previous call that we had that talked about actually that being a good thing in some cases. I hear the point you're raising, the potential disparity that it causes and the potential, fact that that's not fair across the board. But interestingly, one of the students was sharing that because they felt that their work, they was actually able to do the work now, and their work was actually being graded based on the quality of their work, not the date that not the time that it was due. They felt more focused on actually doing better quality work because they weren't trying to get in by a due date. They were actually more trying to get the work done. But I get your point. Your point is a really valid point. So I guess, and I heard another parent talk about along those same lines that obviously dealing with all the challenges of being in COVID, they were living in a doubled up situation. They were sharing and having the pressure of trying to do all these assignments was really more than they can handle. And the fact that they could have an incomplete took some of that pressure off so they can focus on their situation and deal with the school as they could. So you got that whole range of experiences going on. But I think what you shared is another perspective that don't often get shared. So what about that comparison?
And I just want to say this, and I definitely want to give the parents, more parents a time, but I definitely want us to keep in mind that, and I do understand your way of even seeing it, or the way that this other parent, this other child saw it, but this also speaks to what we're talking about as a whole. And so, and I understand that that's the experience of one and maybe the experience of many, but if we're not careful, if we're trying to make concessions, we're losing quality of education, because the point of the matter is education is on time. It's a year to complete a grade, and you getting extra time is not really showing you how to be an effective student or effective learning when you get back. Because guess what? All of that goes out the window. Tuesday is our test, and that was the chance for you to study, the following week before. So not to discount that, but we have to think about it as a whole. Yeah, that's nice for a couple of examples, but that also decreases quality of education in the long run. Right. And we can't just give a passing grade or incomplete to work that's not being done. So I think we really, and I understand what you're saying, I don't want to discount that, but we have to think about that as a whole and not really feel compassion just because it gives more time. We'd all like more time for everything in life, but there are only 24 hours in a day. So I just think we have to stay focused on quality of education.
And so there's a lot, I'm sure everybody have to say that. Thank you so much for sharing that, Nia. And so we're going to get some more voices in this. And so Tawana, then Vanetta.
Hi, I will say, I do know someone personally that have small children. I think, very small elementary children. And this virtual learning just does not work for them at all. They have to sit there. It's only one parent to two students, and he goes back and forth, and it's just terrible. He can't get his children to stay focused. I know two other parents that told me they do work and they pop in and out on their children. They can't get their kids to stay logged on, so it's not working for them. For me personally, it's working. I have older children though. I have a daughter that's in the 8th grade in Buffalo Public, and I have a daughter that's in the 11th grade through charter school. And when we did bump into issues for Buffalo Public, the school that my daughter goes to, which is MST, either the principal or a teacher would call my cell phone and say, okay, Destiny is not on, or Destiny has an incomplete assignment. My 11th grader, she goes to charter for applied technology. That school is absolutely great. If my daughter is missing an assignment, not only do they call, they text, and they email. I'm not having really any issues personally with remote learning. And honestly, I'm thinking about safety first. Like, I'm just totally against sending the kids back to school until this whole virus is cleaned and cleared up. So that is my experience.
All right, thank you so much for sharing. Vanetta.
Okay. Well, again, I am a parent. My son is in 8th grade. It has been a quite unique evolutionary experience, watching my son receive and accept, process, if you will, remote learning. I like the approach that Buffalo Academy of Science has taken. They are very involved. They do try their best to keep him engaged academically. My concern, though, especially with him in 8th grade moving toward high school, is that I don't see enough support in terms of that transition from 8th grade to high school. I really do, even though he's doing well academically, I feel that if he was in school, the quality and the amount, the quality and intensity of work that he would be doing to prepare him for high school level education would be a bit more, especially in terms of writing papers and things like that. I also continue to be concerned because he does have an IEP for speech and counseling. In the beginning of the year, they wanted to start him off with remote, doing that through remote, and throughout the pandemic. When the pandemic began, I expressed my concerns because his performance in his speech development and his counseling began to slide. And if those two things are not advancing, it will challenge him academically as well. So I had to advocate to put together a schedule and a way for him to receive his services in the building. Finally got that done. However, now things are back to being online because of, I guess, the superintendent's decision and things like that. So I am concerned again. Also, when his IEP meeting took place, his annual IEP meeting, because my life is adjusting as a parent in terms of employment, and I finally found the full-time job. I accidentally, and never have, missed his annual meeting. I thought it was one time and it was supposed to had happened another time. And because I missed it, they didn't even call me to, reschedule or say, Miss Rhodes, what happened? Can we, try this again? Nothing. And they went on and made decisions on my son's IEP without me. And I don't know how you get to do that. I was very upset. I called City Hall. I talked with the school administration and things like that. And I just kept getting this dead end approach. Well, once the meeting happens, that's it. Well, and I just refuse to believe that. And I really feel that, is it because this is going on? Just because you think that there's a pandemic and people can't come in the building, or I don't know what it is, but it's not right. And so, again, those types of gaps, those types of mishaps, when it comes to children with special needs, when it comes to children being with academic rigor and challenge and advancement, continue to be. And I just feel, at first I understand back in March, who knew? Everybody was trying to rebuild and retool and everything, but now there's at least data from March until December to be better informed and better planned. And also, we should be able to see data on the rates of COVID illness in suburban schools versus schools in the city. And what does that mean? How does that look? Because I have a friend who is in Williamsville School District, and her child goes in every day. This is, a Black child, and her child goes every day, full day, 9 to 3:30. Haven't stopped. So, I believe parents should have a choice. I definitely do. And like Jenny says, I think it's appalling that parents have to suffer economically, if they receive DSS, or even if they aren't eligible for DSS, to not have the support to pay for their child care and early care and education so that they can work and earn for their families and be able to afford everything, including their education. So, I mean, it really is a lot there. It's a lot we have to learn, that we can actually use this opportunity to learn from and build, because we're not going back to the way we used to be. We're just not. Even when children are, all of them are able to go back into the building, remote will be a tool, an additional tool, and all that type of instructions, synchronous, asynchronous, all of it will be a tool. And so we as parents, we have to understand what's going on and use it in the best interest in growth and development of our children.
Thank you so much, Queen Halima. We're gonna go now to Tarja, and then we'll go to Jasmine. Tarja why don't you introduce yourself and tell them about the movement that you're leading in terms of opening schools, and then talk about a little bit about Sunday, and then we'll go to Jasmine next.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for inviting me here. It feels so good to connect with others and hear your testimonies and see what's happening in other communities so that we don't all feel so separate. So a couple of weeks ago, I started the petition to open New York schools now, which advocates for families who want the choice to go back to school in person. I think we have over 1,000 signatures now, and I slowly became involved in advocating for not only my kids, but others in the community as well. And it's been a lot of listening and a lot of learning. My kids are out in the Clarence School District. I have a 3rd grader and a 6th grader. And we're new to the area. We moved here in the summer because all of our family's here. So we really felt that it was time to be close to family during the pandemic. And I have to say, my kids didn't respond well to remote learning. My little 3rd grader, I had never really seen my kids enter such a depression. So sad. And the screen addiction, I mean, they love their screens anyway, but I mean, just to be on all day, but truly really sad. And, in the beginning, in like March and April and May, in the real lockdown days, and them not seeing anyone, they're super high energy boys. And so all of a sudden their sports were gone. They couldn't see their friends. Those were some really hard days. And now our school district started up hybrid in September. So my little guy has been attending every day, half day. So it's 2.5 hours. And my older guy, the 6th grader in middle school, has been attending 2 full days. So, and that has proved just enough for them to feel like they're connecting with kids and socialize and connect with their teachers and get that learning. And as the new kids on the block, they've been a little less overwhelmed too. So, but like all of you guys, well, like I shouldn't say all of you, some of you guys, we went remote, when we entered the orange zone, fully remote, and we are still fully remote. So we received the word that we were going to go back to school yesterday. And then 2 days later, we received word that no, just kidding. We're going to go back in January. So we all told our kids, and that was kind of some heartbreaking moments, being like, we're going to go back. And then, oh no, sorry. So we had a school board meeting last night. A lot of us went. It felt good to express ourselves in front of the superintendent, but I don't know if we have confidence. He's saying that it's the numbers, even though all of the COVID testing, so they did a ton of testing, zero transmissions. They did some community testing, and so they saw some higher numbers in the community testing, but that also is because we had been home remote for 2 weeks, you know. I'm just of the mind that my kids are safer in schools, but I also believe that a lot of people don't think that way, and that, you know, everyone has the choice for what's right for their kids. So I'm just working with a lot of groups, a lot of families. We had a first rally 2 weeks ago in front of the Rath Building downtown. We got a lot of press, and we kind of got the conversation going. It just felt good. I feel like all of our school districts are so separate, and it felt really good to just connect with other people and hear their stories. It's like, oh, you're going through that too? Oh, West Seneca, you've been remote since March. It's like, you know, just connecting with each other and hearing our stories. So that was really empowering. That felt really good. And then the next day they announced that we'd be back in school. So we're like, oh my God, we did it. But then of course, like I said, that didn't really happen. So anyway, we're doing another rally this Sunday, same place at the Rath Building this Sunday at 1 p.m. For anyone who wants to come on out. This is just for all families, all districts who feel that the choice to have the right to go to school in person is right for them. So we're here to support you. Come on out. We're going to have some speakers. I'm going to let the press know, but thank you guys for having me. Feels good to hear you guys.
Thank you so much, Sharon, for Tarja, and also thanks for the leadership you provide just state. I know you're doing some statewide stuff as well as regional, so thank you so much for that. Jasmine.
Hi, everybody.
Yes, we heard you all over Facebook screaming that you wanted to make sure your voice is heard. So you have the floor to make sure you get to have your voice weigh in on what's
Why
going
you gonna
on.
put me on like that? But I'm in the beginning when the pandemic first started, I was that parent that said, my kid's not going back. My kid's not going back to school. But watching my kids do remote learning has opened my eyes to a lot. I have 2 kids I have 3 kids altogether, but I have 2 kids that's in Buffalo Public School. I have a high schooler. She's 15. You know, this was her freshman year. Now she's a sophomore, and she's doing horribly, you know, like she was, you know, her classes, she was gaining, you know, she was getting the hang of high school, but now she's like failing everything but math, you know, and she has an IEP. I have a 6-year-old who's diagnosed with autism, and he just sitting there like my kids will be on the phone all day, and we know our kids with social media, but this remote learning thing is like draining the life out of my kids. It's like it's taking the fun out of family because you're doing schoolwork all day. If you don't get it done during the day, you got to catch up in the evening so it can be done. But you know, my kids are just like, no, we want to go back to school. Like my teenager, she missed hanging out with her friends, doing her extracurricular activities in school, and then now y'all just take everything away, and it's like, okay, well, what about hybrid? We can't do hybrid. It's just directly remote. What about, you know, my daughter's a hands-on learner. What about, can you send me the paperwork so she can just do it on the paperwork, because doing it on the computer is not working for her. She's not that type of learner. No, they can't do that. They can't help with that. And like my son, he's like having so many episodes, like he will have bad days, but now he's stemming, he's ripping up schoolwork. He'll sit there and tell you, I'm not doing schoolwork today. He don't want to sit there, and he's not on as long as my oldest, but it's too much. It's like my son behavior has gotten worse and worse and worse, and now it's December, almost January, and I have never seen this side of my son, and I thought I done seen it all with my son, but now it's like I can't deal with it. It's hard on me. I'm home. You know, I was a teacher aide, and I understand by trying to work and have your kids, but this right here, being home all day, you gotta be on a screen. You can't go nowhere. You can't do nothing. It's horrible. Like, y'all don't understand the effects that it has on the kids. Like my daughter's sitting right here. She don't want to be on camera, but
I want to talk, but it's like I'm camera shy. But can y'all hear me?
Can y'all
We
hear
can
her?
hear you. We can hear you.
Don't turn. I'm not gonna turn it. Just go ahead. Go ahead.
But like, I feel like I speak for almost all high schoolers, from freshman to senior. We can't do anything. And when I say we can't do anything, I mean like, okay, well, I'm gonna go hang out with my friends after school. There's no after school. And they have an after school program that you can log into, but by the time the school day is done, like all my friends, we all take naps during our lunch break. Our lunch break is when we get to sit down, eat, and mingle. We don't even eat the school food. We bring our own food. So we just sit there at the lunch table or sit wherever we at and just we cool out. But we can't even do that. And by the time school is over, it's like, Rihanna, did you go to your 9th period class? I'm like, oh crap, it's 4 o'clock. Cause I done fell asleep during 8th period. Cause I already know, I'm not gonna sugarcoat nothing. I'm failing every single class. When I say every single class, I mean every single class. It wasn't like that when it first started. James, shut up.
Stop.
It wasn't like that when it first started, but as it progressed, it's like, okay, do y'all not like, so I'm not diagnosed with ADHD or ADD, but it's like, do y'all not care about the effects it's having on people? Like I constantly say this because my counselor had talked to me about it, but it's like, that's not helping either. It's like, do y'all care about the people that don't have everything, that can't log on every day? Do y'all care about the kids that have Wi-Fi issues? Do you care about the kids that don't, the kids that can't pay for a hotspot, that have no way to get a hotspot from the school? The kids that constantly have to help other kids in the house. The kids that have to do more than what a regular teenager has to do.
And she's talking about, because I'm disabled. After my last child, I haven't been able to do anything. I've been in a lot of pain, and she helps out when I have seizures and I have episodes. So it's like, now your kids are taking on some stuff that they wouldn't normally see because they be at school, and now they enduring everything all day, and that takes a lot on the kids. And then on top of that, the technical issues. I have parent network helping me. I have a lot of programs that's trying to help me, but
where's the help?
It's not even where's the help. It's just when you have technical problems all day, every day, it's frustrating. You don't want to keep calling that same person. Like, oh yeah, I'll be there to help you. Like, I done took your child laptop down there 4 times, but I do it the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th time as well. Like, I be feeling like I don't even want to bother her anymore, because it's like every day there's a technical issue. Like every day around 1 o'clock, my daughter's laptop would just shut down.
No, the Wi-Fi.
The Wi-Fi would break up.
So
everybody's on Wi-Fi now. Nothing's working. So it's like really frustrating to everybody.
Everybody has their, if you can mute it, everybody, if you're not talking, if you can mute, because we're getting the feedback.
It's like really frustrating to everybody.
Somebody is they're mute. Please mute because we can hear it playing. All right. So thank you so much, Jasmine. You know, and what's your daughter's name?
Brianna Hardy.
Hi.
Brianna, thank you so much, Brianna. I mean, it really is good to hear directly from students too, because this is really what's going on. You know. So thank you so much, Jasmine. You know, and what's your daughter's name? Somebody got a mute. Brianna,
Somebody's watching a live.
Who's watching and listening? Because this is really what's going on, right? Hello? Okay, that was you, Lloyd. I got it. All right. So really, you know, one of the main issues that we wanted to make sure we did on this platform is make sure we heard from a range of parent voices, because we don't assume all parents are having the same experience. And so it's really important to hear all the parent voices talking, because for the superintendent to make a decision, and it serves some parents, but not all parents, that's really where we have to push back. If, you know, at the end of the day, you know, some of the stuff that's going on as it relates to remote instruction is great. It's working for some parents. For other parents, it's not working. And so we have to have answers for everybody. We can't just have answers for some parents or some students. And so when the superintendent first put out his reopening plan, he said that all parents will have a choice. If you want your children to go to school full-time, they could. If you want your children to go to hybrid, they could. If you want them to go fully remote, they could, which seemed like the fair thing to do. Then, you know, what he said is based on the information that he had, the majority of parents wouldn't send their schools. So like 60–70% of the parents said they wouldn't send their kids to school. But still, that's still 30–40% who would. And so those 30–40% should have the right to send their children to school. So now the issue is, so they said we're going to delay opening. So they delayed opening. Then they said we're going to reassess. Then they reassess. Now he says the issue is not safe. But that's contradictory data. We're hearing that it's not safe from the superintendent, whereas the governor and the county executive senate is safe. So at this point, I think what's most important is that we organize our voice as parents and make sure that the superintendent understands that we as parents get to weigh in on what's going on. It's not simple as you decide, and that's that. We as parents have some say so in this process. Interestingly, today, the Buffalo Board of Education did present at the Buffalo Common Council. And it was interesting in that Dr. Krusty said the superintendent has said to the Board of Education, if the Board of Education voted for him to send kids to school back tomorrow, they are ready to send kids to school back tomorrow, and they would. You know, which is new information. I mean, although I've heard him say that at the October board meeting, I didn't hear it the way it was said today. So having heard that, I think is very important for us to collectively make sure with all of our experiences that we're sharing it with our board members. Because if the board members are ultimately, and they are ultimately the ones who are directing the superintendent, the Board of Education members. If 5 members of the Board of Education say, okay, it's time to go back to school, then ultimately that's the direction that the superintendent has to take. So I think adding to this discussion is really important that we're communicating with our board members. Matter of fact, we're gonna have a board member on the We the Parents show on Thursday, so to give us an opportunity to talk to some of them. Lloyd, you want to say? I see that you, and then I see Bethany, somebody said Bethany had her hand raised. That what you saying, Duncan? All right, go ahead, Lloyd. You have to unmute. There you go. Okay, wait a minute. I got 2 participants with raised hands. Hold on one second. Let me see how to see these raised hands. Okay, yeah, Bethany and Jenny both have raised your hand. Bethany, are you there still?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead. I see you had your hand raised.
Yeah. So I guess just listening to everybody, I mean.
Okay, yeah, Bethany and Jenny both have. Go ahead.
Oh, it's great that we all, you know, that's what parent engagement and parent, you know, getting together is. It's okay to have different opinions. What works for my child may not work for your child. What's bothersome to me about Buffalo Public is that when the superintendent held that board meeting, it literally brought me back to 1985, and as if I was being chastised by my father. You know, just his tone and telling me what I was going to do with my child, as if I didn't have a choice. I did go to a DPCC meeting where a board member was present, and you know, it's almost like they question anything we say. Well, I was told that isn't happening. Well, that's great. I'm glad you were told that isn't happening, but this is my experience. You can't tell me my experience. So today I went to one of the school-based meetings for my child's school. I don't know where he got those results from. I don't know where the superintendent's getting the data that he's sending to the news, to, you know, any of these outlets, because according to my daughter's school, we only have 36% of seniors on track to graduate in June.
Wow.
We have over 1,000 incompletes, and we only have 300 and some students in that school altogether. You know, so it'd be interesting to see if we took City Honors and Hutch Tech out of the equation and just counted, you know, East, Riverside, McKinley, you know, what does the data show us then? Because I really think that those 2 schools are really offsetting our data, you know?
Well, that's true, Bethany. I can verify that for you. If you take out the criteria-based schools, you take out City Honors, Hutch Tech, Da Vinci, Olmsted, and you just had the rest of the school, that would bring your graduation rate down below 30%.
And you think the board members would be doing that? Why are you not asking those questions? You know what I mean? Those 4 schools you just mentioned, those aren't our only schools. My child, and I'm an involved parent. I could pull it up on my phone and show you right now. She has 81 absences, 81. But then when you go in and check it, they've kind of readjusted them so they're not technical absences. You know, that's not okay. Like, you know, it's rigging our information. It's making things seem like they're not. They keep saying learning loss. We can make it up. My daughter's a senior. She can't make anything up. This is it. This is the long haul. And either she's prepared to go on to college next year or she's not. And it just feels like they've left us swimming in an ocean and they're waving from the shore. Like everything will be okay. We'll see ya. You know, and we're struggling. I don't know what more we can say. He says, I don't know where people get this idea that remote learning is not working. Look on Facebook. Look, it's everywhere, you know, but it's because they pick parents who fit the narrative and it's continuously done that it makes it seem to the board that it's working, and it's not. And I don't know what we have to do, but you know, this is unfair to all kids, whether it's charter, whether Buffalo Public, you know, the board's not getting the right information, you know, and it hurts me for my child, but as an advocate for all children in Western New York, you know, through my job, it hurts me for them too. You know?
That's very well stated, Bethany. And I think the issue is the superintendent's not getting all the information. It's almost like they're getting the information they want, but as opposed to hearing from everybody, and making sure that everybody's voice is reflected in what's being communicated, is almost like they listen to what they want to hear and they share the part of the story that they want to share. Jenny, you had your hand raised.
Yes. I just wanted to touch base on a couple of things, if possible. I guess this is one of the issues when you're one of the first people who talk. I deal with not only parents, but also teachers. I speak to every child that I have. I speak to their teachers. I speak to high schoolers, middle school. And from my understanding, when it comes to the reopening plans, one of the biggest issues that kind of divide us from the inner city to the suburbs is how many schools. So I think that they're using that it's safer, it's not safe as kind of like a gimmick. In our reality, they don't want to put the funds into hiring cleaning services like the suburbs have. They don't want to put the money into getting the supplies needed like the suburbs have. So they kind of, you know, are doing what they've always done when it came to education within the inner city, is they've kind of just stuck us with everything. And, you know, the quality of the education and everything, like, this isn't just a remote learning issue. It's always been an issue. I know children personally who has been moved up grade levels when they don't even know how to read. How are you in 4th grade and you don't know how to read? So I think that they're using this whole COVID thing as an excuse on why they're giving kids longer to do paperwork, why kids aren't learning like they're supposed to. Like, this has always been a standard when it came to Buffalo Public Schools. You know, it's never been a priority for them to actually get that real education that the suburb schools get. You know, in the suburbs, them teachers take time out with their children. In the inner city, that's very hard to find. You know, they kind of just do whatever. You know, or they'll pick their very few kids where they're like, you know what, we think you have a shot. You know, and with my kids alone, with this remote learning, I have 3 kids, and each of them during the school day gets about 5 minutes of my time. You know, but my kids know that there's a standard here. So all my kids have really high grades because the standard starts here. Because I'm like, okay, you're supposed to be in school. You're not. You're here. School is here. Meaning that certain things are not acceptable for my children. And I hold not only my children, but I hold all of my daycare children to that same standard. You know, no, a 65 is not okay. I don't care what your teacher tells you.
You know, I have teachers telling children that it's okay to get a 65. It's not. All you have to do is take the time out and help them, and they can get that 80, 90, 100, you know, because these kids want to learn. It's just the teachers aren't doing their job to properly teach them. And this, again, is not just a remote learning scenario. This is also in school.
Yeah, I think an important point that you're making, Jenny, is that this was an issue long before remote instruction started.
Yes.
I mean, Buffalo Public Schools, you know, was having challenges way before that. So whatever we do coming out of remote instruction, we got to figure out and make sure that we come back better. We can't come back and do the same thing we was doing before remote instruction. So there's a lot to be desired in terms of, you know, how do we deal with education in Buffalo Public Schools. But I see, Duncan, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I was going to say the same thing that you just said, Brother Sam. It's just like, listen, the pandemic has really, you know, just shined a light on the inequities that we've been facing this whole time, right? People who have sent their children to school inside the city in Buffalo Public Schools do not get the same quality of instruction that the people in the suburban districts, private schools, and in other places get. And for whatever reason, people just continue to act like that's okay. As opposed to like seeing like there's a problem. And now with COVID, it is like, you know, we already had this achievement gap. Now that gap is going to be so wide, and that's going to affect, and you know, when colleges aren't going to say, hey, were you in high school during COVID? So, you know, now you don't have to take the rudimentary courses or the prereqs to take a real college course because it was COVID. No, our kids, when they're further behind, they're going to have like further hills to climb to get caught back up in 2 years, in 3 years, in 5 years. Like the effects of this is going to be incredibly damaging. Then for second graders and third graders that are still learning to read, like they'll be stunted in their growth, where in the district, only 1 out of 4 kids could read on grade level before COVID. In the district, we have 400 kids dropping out a year before COVID. So, I mean, we got a real challenge here, and like, I'm hopeful. I'm holding out hope that the superintendent is going to say, not sure if he's not on mute, I think that's Jenny, but I'm holding out hope that the superintendent is going to say, we're going to expand the school year into the summer to make up for the learning loss. That we're not just going to go with the kowtow to the teachers union and they say, oh no, we only work this many days a year and just have a normal school year, and okay, we'll see you guys back in August, good luck. But I'm hopeful that they'll take it into late June, mid-July to like really have some intensive learning catch up, because our kids are going to need it across the board.
Thanks for sharing, Duncan. Let me just say this before I turn it over to Lloyd. We'll start to wrap this up. I think to the point that you were making, I think this is the point that Nia was making earlier. What we got to do is really, really, as a parents, you know, come to terms with the fact that the quality of our children's education is really going to be up to us. And what I mean by that is whatever we accept is what we're going to get. If we as parents organize and only accept that we actually get better, that's the only possible way it's going to change. I mean, I think Nia's point earlier around the fact that, you know, we have to be sensitive to what parents are going through, but we also have to come to terms with the fact that there are some school districts that never stop going to school. They have been going to school the whole time. There's some schools that had the resources and they were going, and so their kids is on the same trajectory. You know what I'm saying? So while we're concerned and making, you know, accommodations for our children, they are getting left behind in terms of the global, you know, context in which education takes place. And so if we don't have a way to deal with that as parents, you know what I'm saying? The superintendent, you know, position is his position, but he don't have to live with the results of what he's doing. We have to live with the results of what he's doing. So we have to take the lead in making sure our voice is factored in whatever decisions are being made, and making sure all of our children's needs are met, and making sure, particularly the parents whose voice can't be heard, because all parents are not in a position for their voice to be heard. And we got to make sure that we don't let the school board do a presentation like this last 5-hour school board meeting where they give one side of the story, and it's this whole other group of parents' voices who have not been heard, are not factored into decision making, and then they pretend like they're not there. And so that's the thing that we have to make sure we're really diligent and vigilant to make sure it stays in the conversation. So we're gonna if anybody got any questions, we're gonna go to Lloyd, and Lloyd is gonna share with us another possible strategy that we can look at using some federal law, and then we'll take some a Q&A, and then we'll close so we can respect people's time. Lloyd. You gotta unmute, Lloyd. All right, while we're waiting for Lloyd to unmute, Tarja, why don't you give all the information about Sunday's rally? Are you unmuted, Lloyd? Oh yeah, Lloyd, you gotta press unmute. Give all the information about Sunday's rallies one more time.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you so much. So I put it over in the chat if you want to know the time and the
Okay,
address.
we hear you, Lloyd. Just wait 1 second, Lloyd. We hear you though.
Thank you so much. I welcome everyone to come, hear your story, share your kids' stories. The press will be there.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you
It's
so much.
important for it to be highlighted. Your superintendent and your board members will see this. I encourage everyone to come out from all communities.
Thank you so much. I welcome everyone to come, hear your story.
Well, we heard it twice, Tarja.
The press will be there. I'll do that. Thank you so much.
All right, Lloyd, it's your floor. Go ahead.
I encourage everyone to come out from all communities.
Lloyd, can you hear us? All right, Lloyd, it's your floor. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you, Lloyd.
Can you hear me, Sam?
Yes.
Okay, just let me do an editorial comment first. Let me do an editorial comment first. I heard the superintendent the other night touting the graduation rates, and my question becomes, how many of those that are graduating are scheduled to graduate are on grade level, and how many of those that are going on to higher education will spend at least a year in remedial instruction? He doesn't talk about stuff like that.
College and career
But
ready.
here, the other thing that I want to mention, several folks have talked about choice. What we know about choice right now is that parents have a choice of sending their kids back to school when they go hybrid or leaving them at home. And under the federal law, ESA federal law, every student.
ESSA, every student succeeds at.
I can't hear you. Under
ESSA.
But there's a provision in federal law that allows for public school choice. It used to be mandatory, and now it's optional. And in Buffalo, from what I understand, what it does, folks, is it allows you to transfer your child or children from low performing schools into higher performing schools. Like just for instance, I don't know where it stands right now, but Build Academy, for instance, has been one of the lowest performing schools for academically for several years. The law allows parents in that school to transfer their kids to a school in good standing. My suggestion is that even though Cash is talking about schools reopening for students around February the 1st, my suggestion is that we look into and have a discussion way before that as to whether or not we want to push for that option for the district to allow for students to transfer from lower performing schools to schools in good standing. We did it about 5 or 6 years ago, Sam, I believe.
Yep.
And at one time we had about 3,000 people, 3,000 parents, somewhere around there, that wanted to transfer their kids. The district ignored it completely, with very few exceptions. What I'm suggesting now is that if we have a discussion perhaps at next meeting and see if that's something that we would want to pursue in a district where 75% of the students cannot read, write, and do math on grade level. Something exceptional has to happen. I think and I believe very strongly that our students would have a better chance coming from a low performing school to a school in good standing, and that would give them a better chance. Cash was on, when I listened to him last week, said something to the effect that students are going to do better and narrow the gap in terms of academic achievement by doing school remotely, which is completely ridiculous. If you look at recent reports, you will see that the gap is widening between students of color and white students, and especially hard hit special ed students with special needs. So there's no way without something additional, some better opportunities that our students will ever have an opportunity, if that, to narrow the instructional gap. But it's something I'd like for you to consider, to think about, and we can have a really good discussion about as to whether or not we want to push the district to allow for public school choice.
Okay, thank you so much, Lloyd. So let me just say for everybody, we want to respect people's time. So we're going to end the meeting at 7 because we said we'll go to 7:30. We'll stay on for people who want to stay on and have a discussion, but we'll formally end the meeting. Let me just do this as by way of announcement. We have our next meeting, which will be on Tuesday, January 19th. At 6 o'clock right here on this Facebook page. We also remind everybody again, Sunday at 1 o'clock at 95 Franklin for the rally. We also want to let, for people who want to be part of it, this Buffalo Board of Education's regular board meeting is tomorrow. Tomorrow at 5 o'clock. You can go to buffaloschools.org on the website to get access to that information. I'm gonna stay on the Facebook for people who want to stay on, because we had quite a few comments on Facebook, and so I'm gonna talk about those comments. So people, for all of our guests who have been on our executive committee, you're welcome to stay if you want to, but I want to thank you for coming. Do anybody have any questions before we move to close for the people who need to get off at now? That's 7:30. Any questions for anybody who needs to get off?
I don't necessarily have a question. A quick comment.
Yes, go ahead.
I think what Lloyd was saying about effective schools, since we're not in buildings now, that should be extended to the distance learning too. That if you're not in an effective learning experience, you should be able to move to an effective learning experience, not just buildings, but the experience itself. And I'm not sure if that's clear or not.
No, that's clear. As a matter of fact, it's probably one of the innovations that we need to have, in that we have to figure out a way to let parents find what works for their children and ensure that every child gets what they need. Every child don't learn the same way. Now that we have the capacity for a significant number of children to learn remotely, some children learn better remotely. Some children are self-paced learners, and if you let them go remotely, they're fine. That should make more room for the kids who need more hands-on help. And we should be able to be more effectively help those children. But that's only going to happen when parents are able to speak up about what their children need, and if we're able to come up with more effective ways to assess what our children need. But I think that's a very valid point, Kamal. Thank you. So with that, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to transition now for people who want to stay on, and I'm going to kind of talk about some of the things that was said on the Facebook. And make sure we answer those questions. Our first question really came from Jasmine. Jasmine was really blowing up Facebook. So we already kind of answered Jasmine's questions. She got a chance to talk about it. But Tatiana Cole said, in relationship to what you were saying earlier, Jenny, if you're still there, that some schools have locks for their computers and some schools have filters on their computer where kids can't get on other things other than school related stuff. So it's not every school don't have that. So just be aware that that's something that is all that some schools are doing. So it's important for other parents to know that it don't necessarily have to be that way. The Wendy Mistrala said, I appreciate everyone sharing their experiences. This speaker is making me question the legality of our lack of choice. She wanted to know if can they legally take away our right to choose. In other words, the schools are permitted to be open, but the superintendent board of education refuses to provide access. Isn't that denying our right to access our public education in our public buildings? Can BPS legally say that education being offered remotely when there's another option is equal? Isn't it separate and therefore unequal? So she's raised a question about the separate and unequal education question. It's worth considering. If anybody got a comment on that, feel free to share. LaCandice Durham says, I'm requesting for school hours to be from 9 to 1. Extracurricular activities should be choice. My kids love extracurricular activities. So Carolyn Hassett Roeder said, coming from a private/Catholic system just last year, the lack of equity in Buffalo public school system is shocking to me. We all deserve way better. I'm so saddened that we all have this additional stress. Buffalo public schools should be working on 100%, working at 100%, and then to make our children's lives, our lives and teachers' lives much more easier. I have yet to be convinced that they are doing this. You are all amazing. Keep it up. So thank you, Carolyn. LaCandice also said there should be more technical support in schools. The support location is too far. So for people who don't know what she's talking about, you have to go out to South Buffalo, School 28 to get support for your technical, if you have a laptop issue. She says the communication is severely lacking from the superintendent to parents. To date, we've had to listen to a 5-hour school board meeting, scroll multiple Facebook accounts to find any information. So she feel like the information is very poorly communicated. We should be receiving weekly or bi-weekly updates from the superintendent, in my opinion, through mailings, emails, hearing updates through newspapers, news presses. 5-hour board meetings is not acceptable. We all deserve better than this. Then we got some people start answering other people's questions. I won't go down all those so we got a lot more here. So that's kind of what we were hearing from Facebook. So basically what we heard here, parents on Facebook, felt very similar. So anybody that's still on want to share anything before we get ready to close? Go ahead, Jasmine.
I don't think we ever really had a choice. I think they were just, like I wrote, I think they was just playing off our fear for our children's lives. And I can say this, that I know for a fact, because I've been fighting for my kids since they started school. And I really felt that my daughter wasn't ready for high school. I wanted her in a different school, like that could fit her needs and give her the help that she really needed, because I thought she wasn't really mature enough and had the mentality for high school. And they just told me, no, she's fine at South Park and she'll be all right. But she's failing. She's been failing since before the COVID, and now she's feeling even worse after COVID. For my autism son, I wanted him in an agency school. And they told me, no, he has to go to Buffalo Public School. And I had choices there, but I had no choice in where he was going to be placed at, because he needs to be in a 611 class. And there was only one school, which is the school he goes to now. But they are not, they are good. It's a good school, and I'm not knocking the school, but he needs more. And he's not getting that. And that's why I said, I don't think we ever really had a choice. I think they felt that all parents we all scared because it's COVID. We never heard of it, and we didn't know what was going on. People are dying left and right. And they took that and ran with it. They gave us all these surveys, but it really wasn't up to us of whether we wanted hybrid or or anything. I think it was directly going to be remote learning, and I don't like the way it's going. Not for my kids, like the technical issues alone is horrible. My kids get marked absent every single day. Every day.
Jasmine, let me ask you to do this if you don't mind. Jasmine, if you can, I just put in the chat, I just put our website, and this is for anybody who's listening as well. If you want to become a member of We the Parents, and we can talk about how we can effectively advocate with you, you can go to that website, CAOWNY.org/we-the-parents. And we will and fill out to become a member of We the Parents, and then we can talk about how we can work directly with you, so we can talk about how we can collectively advocate. That's for anybody who's listening.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome to consider becoming a member of We the Parents, because that's ultimately what we're doing. We're gathering information right now, so we can advocate on behalf of parents, but we're going to focus on advocating on behalf of the parents who are members of the organization, so that we actually have concrete cases that we can use, and when we file our complaints, or we bring a case before the school district or the state education department or the Office of Civil Rights, wherever we bring it at, we need to have a person with standing. So we have to actually become a member if we're going to do that advocacy.
Not a problem. Thank you.
All right. So as we wrap up, I see your hand raised, Bethany, and then I'm gonna ask Nia and Duncan and Vanetta if y'all have anything to say in closing, and then we'll close. Go ahead, Bethany.
Okay, I just want to say, in case there are any parents, any teachers or administration, listening, this isn't a fight against parents against teachers and admin. I believe that everyone really is doing the best, that they've been thrown into this situation. I think as parents, if we don't advocate for our kids, then who does? So I think it's more of, we elect the board. The board works for us. The superintendent isn't the end all be all, and they're supposed to be coming to us, getting our opinions, and I think if we really start holding some pressure and, advocating for our kids and demanding that everyone's voice is heard, and our school board, it doesn't vote because they're scared of the superintendent. That's your job. To go against. Sometimes you got to go against the superintendent, and that's okay, but we got to get this school board asking questions. They're pacifying them with very blank answers, and I'm not going for it. I don't know what everybody else is doing, but I'm not going for it. My kid's way too important to me that for the nonsense that they're trying to pull. So I'm very happy to be here, and I will be back in January.
Thank you. We appreciate the fact that you committed to your children. And I think that's ultimately what we all about. And it's just really about making sure all of our voices is heard. That's really what it comes down to. So thank you so much, Bethany, for your passion and your commitment to your children. Nia, you want to say anything before we move to close? You're muted, Nia.
Yes, I just have to unmute myself. I just wanted to say to all the parents, I think we heard a wide array of things that are going on in the homes and how parents have different experiences. But I think the thing that matters most is whether the experience is bad or good, or whether you may even agree with the parent or disagree with the parent or a teacher. Obviously you care, and you care about your children. That's why you're even here. And I think the larger picture is not only do we have the rights as parents, but I agree with Bethany. I heard too much of things that COVID only exacerbated. COVID only shined a light on disparity in education even more. So I think our focus has to become more than ever making sure our kids get a quality education. And that's if they never go back, or if they do. And that's what's very, very important. And I really think I would encourage all the parents that are listening, all the parents that are on the call, all the parents that are on Facebook, join We the Parents. Join, because obviously you guys are parents that care, and together we can come up with a good, solid plan and a good, solid strategy to make sure that this inadequacy and this inequity comes to an end. And I know it's kind of off the beat, of COVID and it's kind of off the beat of remote learning, but really that's at the foundation of it. Because if they're not getting a quality education at home or in school, what are we even talking about bringing them back for?
Well
So
stated.
we have to get focused. And I say that with love. And this is a good place for it. That's why I'm here. So I encourage you to join.
All right.
Have a good
very
night.
well, very well stated, Nia. Thank you for sharing. Vanetta.
Almost didn't know who you were talking about. You haven't called me Vanetta in
Yeah,
about
you're right.
20 years.
That's true.
Okay. I just want to thank all of the parents for the very, not just passionate, but child-centered and family-oriented and education-empowered answers and testimonies that were given. And I'll copy what the other person that has said. The reason why we're here today isn't because we are adversaries of our education partners. It is because we are partners and collaborators, and we are our children's first teachers. So we want to continue in that spirit, and not just in that spirit, in that work. The intense way in which the governor commissioned to have sessions with parents and to meet with us in August and September to get this whole thing going probably should have, and it's not too late, should continue in that same way now. So if our voices were needed then, I'm hoping it wasn't just the co-sign, and it wasn't because Governor Cuomo said so. It's because we knew that in order to move forward for our children, having both parent and teacher at the table, when I say teacher, I mean, all of the education administrators and people and education professionals, having us all at the table is what gave us a start, and now here we are again. And so we should again learn from the past, in the not so distant past, and have a better, well-informed present now on how we're going to move forward with our children in 2021. And that starts now. It can't start in a month or 2 months. Now, all of that work needs to start with both of us together. And if it can't be together, then I guess we will have to make it happen that way.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for sharing, Queen. And like you said, Bethany, nothing about us without us. Very good point. All right, Duncan. You muted, Duncan. So you got to do your clap all over again.
I had some good energy on that clap right there, Brother Sam. Listen, we just getting started, parents, and I just want to say to everybody, parents, you are not alone. Right now, you're going through this virtual learning, remote learning. This is like the toughest thing we ever had to deal with. And people, it's a lot to put on parents who aren't trained educators, aren't, credentialed professionals with the service of educating children and students. So, it's new for parents. They're adjusting to work. You're trying to work, parent, supervise, everything. I mean, it's a lot. So parents, you're not alone going through these trials. When your internet go out and your internet spectrum messing up your internet and you can't get your kids logged in, guess what? It's 800 other parents going through that. When your kid is getting marked absent over and over and over, it's 1,000 other kids that's going through that. When you worried, like, is my kid really learning anything? Because you're looking at their homework and it's just busy work. It's other parents going through that. And so together, we can help each other with best practices, but also we can make the system work for our children. But it works when we work together. We can be a mighty fist coming together to strike a blow for education equity and make sure our kids get the best possible education. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Brother Sam.
Thank you so much for sharing, Brother Kamal.
Yeah, 2 words that stay in my head is safe and effective. That the educational process, just like this vaccination process, like everything we do in our life, should be safe and effective. So those are a safe and effective education. That's what's on my heart. Safe and effective.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. We appreciate everybody's time. Even for those of you who stayed the extra 30 minutes, I see we got another 20 people on Facebook that are still out there listening to us. Thank you so much. Again, we want to say to everybody, if you want to join the We the Parents organization, go to the website. I put it onto this Facebook. I also put it into the chat box here, but it's www.caowny.org/we the parents. And you
Remind them about the show.
And also, if you want to tune in, we have a radio show that comes on every Thursday. You can watch it right here at this site on Facebook, or you can go watch it on Power 96.5 WUFO every Thursday night from 6 to 7. So we look forward to seeing you there. Again, our next meeting is Tuesday, January 19th. It's always the third Thursday of the month. And so we got some exciting things coming up. We got a new logo, got some t-shirts that we're going to be sharing with all of our members. So we're looking forward to seeing you next time. And thank you so much, everybody. And we pray that you have a blessed night. And we pray for the safety of everyone and all of our children. Good night and God bless.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.